Have you ever felt like someone in your life secretly resents you, but you just can't prove it? They smile, they talk, they even laugh with you, but deep down something feels off. You sense the tension in their voice, the subtle hesitation in their words. But is it just your imagination? Or is there something more sinister at play? Today, we're diving into the hidden signs that someone close to you might secretly hate you. And trust me, by the time we get to the final sign, you may never look at certain people the same way again. Before we begin, if you find human psychology fascinating and want to uncover the hidden truths about people's behavior, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We dive deep into stoicism, self-improvement, and powerful psychological insights that help you navigate life with clarity. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Sign 1. Sarcasm, disguised as jokes. They laugh with you, but something about their jokes doesn't sit right. You know the kind, those just kidding comments that cut a little too deep. They make a joke about your appearance, your success, or even your insecurities. And when you react, they immediately backtrack. Relax, I was just joking. You take everything too seriously. But was it really a joke, or was it a carefully disguised insult? Psychologists call this hostile humor, a passive-aggressive way of expressing resentment without direct confrontation. People who secretly dislike you might not openly attack you, but they will take every chance to undermine you with humor that stings. This behavior is rooted in suppressed resentment. They feel threatened by you, maybe because of your success, confidence, or even something as simple as your positive attitude. Instead of expressing their feelings honestly, they use sarcasm to test your reaction while keeping plausible deniability. So how do you spot this? Pay attention to the pattern. If someone constantly jokes at your expense, especially about things that matter to you, it's not just humor, it's a warning sign. Have you ever experienced this? Think about it. Who in your life constantly makes jokes that leave you feeling uncomfortable? Because that might not be a friend. That might be someone secretly hoping to see you fail. And if you think this is subtle, just wait until you hear about the next sign, which is even more deceptive. Sign 2. Fake support that feels off. Ever had someone congratulate you, but their words felt empty? Maybe you landed a great job, got into a relationship, or achieved something important. They say, "That's amazing. I'm so happy for you." But something in their voice doesn't match their words. The smile is there, but their eyes, cold. Their energy, distant. This is what psychologists call false positivity, a mask worn by those who secretly resent you. Instead of showing outright hostility, they hide their true feelings behind forced enthusiasm. But deep down, they're not celebrating your success. They're hoping for your downfall. And how can you tell? Pay attention to micro-expressions, those split-second flashes of real emotion before they put on their act. Do they hesitate before congratulating you? Do they avoid eye contact? Do they immediately shift the conversation back to themselves or downplay your achievement? Here's the real test. Share a small failure or struggle with them. Do they seem a little too interested? Do they suddenly become more engaged, asking for details about what went wrong? This is a major red flag. If someone secretly dislikes you, they will show more excitement when you struggle than when you succeed. And here's the kicker. This behavior isn't always conscious. According to Carl Jung's shadow theory, people project their insecurities onto others. When they see you winning, it reminds them of their own failures. Their resentment isn't always about you, it's about their own inadequacies. So think about the people in your life. Who is always there when things go wrong, but strangely distant when things go right? Keep watching, because the next sign is even more dangerous. It's a silent betrayal that most people never notice until it's too late. Sign 3. Backhanded compliments. Have you ever received a compliment that didn't quite feel like one? Maybe someone said something like, "Wow, you actually look good today. I wish I had as much free time as you do to focus on working out. You're really smart for someone who didn't go to college." At first it sounds positive, but there's an undercurrent of insult lurking beneath the surface. This is what psychologists call negging, a subtle form of verbal sabotage where someone disguises their resentment as praise. Why do people do this? Simple. Hidden inferiority. When someone feels threatened by you but doesn't want to show it openly, they throw in subtle jabs wrapped in compliments. It allows them to maintain a polite image while still planting seeds of doubt in your mind. And here's where it gets psychological. Most of the time, these people aren't even aware they're doing it. According to Freud's theory of defense mechanisms, people project their own insecurities onto others. Instead of admitting their own feelings of inadequacy, they try to subtly lower your confidence. How can you spot this? They rarely give you direct praise without adding a but at the end. Their compliments feel more like a backhanded remark rather than genuine appreciation. You walk away from the conversation feeling worse, not better. The most dangerous part? If you call them out, they'll act innocent. What? I was just being nice. But were they? Or were they subtly trying to bring you down? And this is just the beginning, because the next sign is even more insidious. It's when they act supportive in front of you but sabotage you behind your back. Sign 4. Silent sabotage. Behind your back. Some people won't openly insult you. They won't argue with you. They won't even make snide remarks. Instead, they'll do something far worse. They'll pretend to support you while subtly working against you. Imagine this. You share an exciting goal with someone. Maybe you want to start a business, get in shape, or make a major life change. They smile, nod, and say, "That's awesome. I totally support you." But behind the scenes, they're planting tiny obstacles in your way. Maybe they spread doubt to others. "Yeah, he says he's starting a business, but let's see if he actually follows through. She's been hitting the gym, but I don't think she'll stick with it for long." Or they subtly discourage you. "That's really risky. Are you sure you want to do that?" Most people fail at things like that. Just saying. This is known as covert sabotage, and it often comes from people who secretly fear your success. According to psychologists, these individuals suffer from scarcity mindset, the belief that someone else's success takes away from their own. Instead of being inspired by your growth, they see it as a threat to their ego. The worst part? They do it so quietly that you don't even realize it's happening. How can you tell? They act supportive in public but make subtle negative comments in private. They celebrate you less and less the closer you get to success. They introduce small distractions into your life, convincing you to procrastinate, take a break, or delay your plans. Think about it. Who in your life says they support you but their actions never match their words? Because this type of hidden resentment is one of the most dangerous forms of betrayal. And if you think this is bad, the next sign is even more manipulative, because it involves turning others against you without you even realizing it. Sign 5. Turning others against you. What if someone close to you is slowly poisoning your relationships without you even noticing? They don't openly fight with you. They don't spread outright lies. Instead, they plant seeds of doubt in other people's minds, slowly chipping away at your reputation. This is called triangulation, a psychological manipulation tactic where someone creates tension between you and others while keeping their own hands clean. Here's how it works. They subtly badmouth you in conversations. "I love your name." But sometimes they can be a little selfish, don't you think? They twist your words to create misunderstandings. "Oh, you didn't hear? Your name said they don't trust you completely." They act like the victim. I try to support your name, but they just push me away. The goal? To make you the outsider, to turn your friends, coworkers, or family members against you while they maintain the image of being neutral. Why do they do this? Because deep down they feel powerless in direct confrontation. So instead of expressing their resentment openly, they use social manipulation to weaken your position. And here's the scary part. You won't even know it's happening until it's too late. One day, people just start treating you differently. They grow distant, the trust weakens, and you have no idea why. How can you spot this? If someone in your circle suddenly treats you differently without explanation, you hear strange rumors about yourself that seem to come out of nowhere. The person in question acts overly friendly in private but cold in public. This is one of the most dangerous forms of hidden resentment because it isolates you and makes you doubt yourself. And if you thought this was manipulative, just wait until you hear about the next sign, where they don't just hurt your reputation, they drain your energy and happiness every time you're around them. Sign 6, draining your energy. Every time you're around them. Some people don't need to insult you. They don't need to sabotage you. They don't even need to turn others against you. Instead, they do something even worse. They drain the life out of you every time you interact with them. Have you ever spent time with someone and walked away feeling exhausted? Not physically, but emotionally? Maybe they didn't even say anything outright negative, but the entire conversation felt like a slow drain on your energy. These people are known as energy vampires. They may not openly resent you, but deep down they carry negative emotions, jealousy, bitterness, or silent competition. And every time they interact with you, they subtly pull you into their emotional chaos. Here's how they do it. Constant complaining. Every conversation revolves around their problems, their frustrations, their struggles, while never asking about you. Subtle guilt tripping. They make you feel bad for your success, happiness, or even just having a good day. Emotional neediness. They rely on you for validation, attention, or comfort, but never give anything back. At first, you may not notice it, but over time, you start feeling mentally exhausted after every interaction. You find yourself dreading their calls or messages. And worst of all, they make you feel like you're being selfish for wanting space. And why does this happen? Because people who secretly resent you don't always express it through anger. Some do it through passive negativity. They may feel inferior to you, so instead of attacking you, they pull you down to their emotional level. How can you tell you feel emotionally heavy after talking to them? The conversation is one-sided, always revolving around their issues. They subtly make you feel guilty for things that aren't your fault. If you recognize this, it might be time to set boundaries, because the more you let them drain your energy, the more control they have over you. And if you think this is toxic, wait until you hear about the next sign, which is when they don't just drain your energy, they secretly celebrate your failures. Sign 7. They secretly enjoy your failures. You fail at something. Maybe a project doesn't work out, you lose an opportunity, or you're struggling with a personal issue. You share the news with them, expecting support. But instead of genuine concern, you notice something strange. A slight smirk, a little too much curiosity, a response that feels off. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry that happened. How can I help?" they say something like, "Wow, that sucks, but honestly, I kind of saw it coming." Maybe this is a sign that you should quit while you're ahead. Hey, at least now you know how it feels to lose. There's no encouragement, no support, just a thinly veiled sense of satisfaction. This is what psychologists call schadenfreude, the secret pleasure some people feel when others fail. It's one of the clearest signs that someone resents you, because instead of lifting you up, they subtly enjoy watching you struggle. Why does this happen? Because deep down they see your success as a reminder of their own shortcomings. Your wins make them feel small. Your progress makes them insecure. And when you finally face a setback, it restores their sense of balance, because now you're not above them anymore. How can you tell? They ask a lot of questions about your failure, but not out of concern. They offer no real support, just passive comments that make you feel worse. They seem happier when you're struggling than when you're succeeding. This is a dangerous type of resentment because it's hidden behind fake sympathy. They may act like they care, but deep down, they're relieved to see you stumble. But here's the real danger. This type of person isn't just happy when you fail. They may actually set you up to fail without you realizing it. Because the next sign is even more toxic. It's when they subtly influence your decisions in a way that leads to your downfall. Sign 8. They subtly influence your decisions to lead you to failure. Some people won't attack you outright. They won't argue, insult, or confront you. Instead, they do something far more manipulative. They pretend to have your best interests at heart while secretly steering you toward bad choices. Have you ever shared an idea with someone only for them to discourage you in a subtle way? Maybe you say, "I'm thinking of starting my own business." I want to go back to school. I've been considering moving to a new city for better opportunities. Instead of supporting you, they respond with something like, "Are you sure? That sounds really risky." Most people fail at that kind of thing, so don't get your hopes up. "I don't think that would suit you. You're better off staying where you are." At first, it sounds like concern. They act like they're protecting you. But in reality, they're planting doubt in your mind, subtly making you question yourself. And if you're not careful, you start listening to them. You hesitate, you second-guess yourself. And before you know it, you give up on your own dreams, without even realizing they manipulated you into it. Why do they do this? Because your ambition threatens them. Your potential makes them uncomfortable. And if you succeed, it will prove that they were wrong about their own limitations. According to behavioral psychologists, this is called subtle sabotage. It's when someone influences your choices in a way that holds you back, while making it look like they're just being realistic. How can you tell? They always focus on risks instead of possibilities. They act supportive on the surface, but their advice makes you feel less confident. They encourage safe decisions that keep you from growing. This is one of the most dangerous forms of resentment because it's disguised as helpfulness. They're not stopping you outright, but they are nudging you toward failure. And here's the harsh truth. If you've fallen for this once, you may have already let someone's secret resentment hold you back in life. But what's even worse? The next sign is the most deceptive of all, because it's when they act overly nice while secretly disliking you. Sign 9. They act overly nice, but it feels fake. Some people who secretly resent you won't insult you, they won't sabotage you, they won't even discourage you. Instead, they will overcompensate with extreme kindness. Have you ever met someone who was too nice to you? Someone who always agrees with you, never challenges anything you say, and constantly showers you with over-the-top compliments. At first, it seems like they truly admire you. But over time, something feels off. Their kindness doesn't feel genuine. It feels forced. Here's why. When someone secretly dislikes you but doesn't want to show it, they overcorrect their behavior. They fear that their true feelings might slip out. So instead of being neutral, they act excessively friendly to cover up their real emotions. Psychologists call this compensatory niceness, a defense mechanism where people fake warmth to hide resentment. But no matter how much they try to hide it, their body language betrays them. How can you tell? Their smile seems too rehearsed, it doesn't reach their eyes. They overdo their compliments, but their tone feels insincere. They act extra sweet in person, but distant or uninterested when you're not around. When you share good news, they act happy, but their energy doesn't match their words. And the biggest red flag? Their kindness disappears the moment they think you're not useful to them anymore. This type of resentment is the hardest to detect because it hides behind politeness. You might think, why would they be fake nice if they don't like me? Simple, because being openly hostile would ruin their image. They don't want to be seen as the bad guy, so they pretend to like you, while secretly hoping you fail. And if you thought this was deceptive, just wait until you hear about the next sign, which is when they use passive-aggressive behavior to make you feel small. Sign 10. Passive-aggressive behavior that chips away at you. Some people don't need to insult you directly. They don't argue, yell, or openly criticize you. Instead, they weaponize subtlety, delivering hidden jabs wrapped in politeness. This is the art of passive aggression. Instead of saying, "I'm mad at you," they'll say, "Wow, must be nice to have time for yourself. Some of us are actually busy." Instead of admitting they're jealous, they'll say, "I don't know why people admire you so much. It's not like you're doing anything special." Instead of openly confronting you, they'll give you the silent treatment, ignore your messages, or forget to invite you to things. These small actions might seem minor, but over time they add up to a toxic cycle, one where they chip away at your confidence, energy, and sense of self-worth. Why do they do this? Because direct confrontation would expose their resentment. Instead of openly expressing how they feel, they mask it behind sarcasm, dismissive remarks, or calculated accidents. According to behavioral psychology, passive aggression comes from people who feel powerless in direct conflict. They don't want to seem like the villain, so they undermine you in subtle ways instead. How can you tell? Their words don't match their tone. They say something nice, but their energy feels cold. They make jokes that don't feel like jokes, and when you call them out, they act innocent. They intentionally delay or forget things that matter to you. They express fake concern. I'm just looking out for you, but I think you're making a mistake. The scariest part? If you confront them, they'll flip the script and make you look like the bad guy. They'll say, "Wow, I was just joking. Why are you overreacting?" And if you've been dealing with this type of behavior, you need to pay close attention to the next sign, because it's when they purposely distance themselves while still keeping tabs on you. Sign 11, they distance themselves but still keep tabs on you. At first, they were everywhere in your life. They checked in, messaged you, and seemed engaged. But suddenly, they pull back. They stop reaching out. They become distant. The energy shifts. At first, you think they're just busy. Maybe life got in the way, but then you notice something strange. Even though they avoid direct contact, they still watch everything you do. They stop talking to you, but still watch your Instagram stories. They never congratulate you, but somehow they know all about your achievements. They act indifferent, but you catch them asking mutual friends about you. This is what psychologists call detached resentment. They don't want to be involved in your life anymore, but they also can't seem to look away. Why does this happen? And because deep down, their resentment isn't just about you. It's about how you make them feel about themselves. Seeing you thrive triggers their insecurities. Keeping tabs on you feeds their need to compare themselves. But staying close to you reminds them of their own inadequacies. So they keep a safe emotional distance while still observing from the shadows. How can you tell? They suddenly reduce direct interaction, but they still consume your content. They act cold or distant, but you hear through others that they still talk about you. They no longer engage with you, but they react to your life from a distance. This is one of the most confusing signs because their behavior feels contradictory. But the truth is, they can't fully let go because they are emotionally tied to your success. But if you think this is frustrating, wait until you hear about sign 12, where they don't just watch from a distance. They start mirroring you in ways that feel unsettling. Sign 12. They start mirroring you in an unsettling way. At first, it seems like a coincidence. You get a new hobby, and suddenly they're into it too. You start dressing differently, and somehow their style begins to change. You talk about a book, a mindset, or a business idea, and next thing you know, they're talking about the same thing. But over time, it starts feeling off. This is called toxic mirroring. And it's a psychological phenomenon where someone who secretly resents you subconsciously copies your actions, interests, or personality. Not out of admiration, but out of competition and insecurity. Why do they do this? Because deep down they feel inferior. But instead of openly acknowledging that, they try to become like you to prove, to themselves and others, that they are just as good as you. It's a twisted dynamic where they simultaneously resent you and envy you at the same time. According to Carl Jung's shadow theory, people who struggle with self-acceptance often project their inner conflicts onto others. Instead of working on their insecurities, they unconsciously absorb traits from the person they feel threatened by, turning admiration into silent resentment. How can you tell? They suddenly adopt your interest, clothing style, or way of speaking. They act competitive in areas where you naturally excel. They deny that they're influenced by you, but their behavior tells a different story. They start seeking validation from the same people who admire you. At first, it may seem flattering, but over time it feels unsettling, as if they're trying to replace or overshadow you instead of simply being inspired by you. And here's the worst part. People who engage in toxic mirroring don't stop there. Because the next sign is when they start twisting the truth and rewriting history to make themselves look better at your expense. Sign 13. They rewrite history to make themselves look better. One of the most manipulative things someone can do when they secretly resent you is twist the past to make themselves the hero and you the villain. Maybe they once admired you, maybe you even helped them in some way. But as time goes on, they start reshaping the story. Your achievements, they downplay them. They just got lucky. Your struggles? They rewrite them to make themselves the victim. I always had to support them. Your kindness? They twist it into something selfish. They only did that for attention. At first, these changes are subtle, but over time you start to notice. They talk about past events in ways that don't match reality. They exaggerate their role in your life to make themselves look stronger. They frame you as less important or less capable than you actually were. This is called narrative manipulation, and it's a classic behavior of people who can't handle seeing someone else shine. Why do they do this? Because their ego can't accept the truth. If you help them, they twist it to make it look like they helped you more. If you succeeded, they rewrite the past to make it seem like they played a bigger role than they actually did. If you were once close, they frame it as if they always had doubts about you. According to psychologists, people who do this suffer from cognitive dissonance, a mental conflict where their inner resentment doesn't match their outer actions. Instead of facing their feelings, they rewrite history to justify their hidden resentment. How can you tell? They retell old stories differently than how you remember them. They make themselves look like the real reason behind your success. They subtly erase your contributions while making their own seem bigger. This type of person doesn't just want to resent you in private. They want to control how others perceive your journey, to make sure they're always seen as the more deserving one. And if you thought this was manipulative, just wait until you hear about sign 14, which is when they start celebrating your mistakes and embarrassments in public. Sign 14. They celebrate your mistakes and embarrassments in public. Everyone makes mistakes. But a true friend or supporter helps you recover. They don't use your slip-ups as entertainment. But when someone secretly resents you, they do the opposite. They don't just notice your failures, they enjoy them. And they don't just laugh at your embarrassing moments, they amplify them. Here's how it looks. You mess up in a meeting, they make sure everyone remembers it. You say something awkward, they bring it up later as a joke. You have a personal struggle, they casually mention it in front of others. And the worst part? They pretend it's all harmless fun. They'll say things like, "Relax, I'm just joking. Come on, don't be so sensitive. It's just a funny story, don't take it the wrong way." But here's the truth, it's not a joke. It's a way to subtly undermine your confidence while keeping their hands clean. Why do they do this? Because deep down, seeing you stumble makes them feel better about themselves. Your failures restore balance in their minds. They can finally feel equal to you again. Psychologists call this downward social comparison, a psychological trick where insecure people boost their own self-worth by focusing on other people's struggles instead of improving themselves. How can you tell? They only highlight your mistakes, never your wins. They repeat embarrassing stories about you in group settings. When you confront them, they gaslight you, making you feel like you're overreacting. This isn't harmless teasing, it's a power play. And if you don't recognize it in time, it can destroy your self-confidence from the inside out. And if you thought this was bad, wait until you hear about sign Dr. 15, which is when they start making strategic comparisons to make you feel small. Sign 15. They make strategic comparisons to make you feel small. Comparison is one of the most subtle yet powerful weapons someone can use against you. And when a person secretly resents you, they will use it strategically, not to inspire you, but to make you doubt yourself. They won't say, "I think you're not good enough." Instead, they'll say, "Wow, have you seen how successful someone else is? They're killing it right now." At first, it seems innocent, but over time, you start noticing a pattern. They always compare you to someone they think is better than you. Their tone is never encouraging, it's subtly diminishing. They act like they're just observing, but their real goal is to make you feel less important. Here's how they do it. And if you're doing well at work, they'll say, "Yeah, but someone else got promoted even faster." If you start getting fit, they'll say, "That's great, but have you seen someone else? They're in insane shape." If you share an achievement, they'll say, "Cool, but someone else did the same thing years ago." At first, you might brush it off, but over time, these comparisons start to erode your self-esteem, making you feel like you're never enough. Why do they do this? Because deep down they are jealous of your growth, but they don't want to admit it. So instead of celebrating you, they shift the focus to someone else, keeping you stuck in self-doubt while they maintain the upper hand. According to social psychology, this is a tactic called indirect devaluation. where someone makes you feel small without directly attacking you. It's a form of covert competition designed to lower your confidence without confrontation. How can you tell? They never compare you to someone who's struggling, only to someone doing better. Their comparisons don't uplift you, they subtly undermine you. They act like they're just making observations, but their tone feels dismissive. If you recognize this pattern, pay attention, because this isn't accidental. It's a calculated move to make you question yourself while they sit back and watch. And if you thought this was damaging, wait until you hear about sign Doctor 16, where they start showing their true resentment through body language, no matter how hard they try to hide it. Sign 16, their body language betrays their true feelings. No matter how much someone tries to hide their resentment, their body will always betray them. They may smile at you, but their lips stay tight. They may laugh at your jokes, but their eyes don't match their expression. They may act friendly, but their posture is stiff, their arms stay crossed, and their body angles away from you. Why? Because while words can lie, body language never does. According to behavioral psychologists, resentment leaks through nonverbal cues, small, subconscious reactions that expose true emotions. And once you know what to look for, you'll start noticing these signs everywhere. How can you tell? Forced smiles. Their mouth smiles, but their eyes stay emotionless. Minimal eye contact. They glance at you but quickly look away. Tense posture. Their shoulders stay stiff, arms crossed, or legs angled away from you. Micro-expressions of disdain. Brief flashes of disgust, irritation, or frustration before they catch themselves. Sudden silence when you enter a room. Conversations shift when you show up, or they look uncomfortable. These are instinctual reactions, meaning even if they try to hide their emotions with words, their body will reveal the truth. Why does this happen? Because resentment is an emotional burden, one that creates tension in the body. When someone secretly dislikes you, their subconscious discomfort manifests in small, involuntary movements. According to Dr. Paul Ekman, a leading expert on micro-expressions, even the best actors in the world can't fully control their split-second facial reactions to emotions like contempt or envy. So if their words sound friendly but their body language feels cold, trust what you see, not what you hear. And if you think this is revealing, wait until you hear about sign Doctor 17, which is when they start engaging in small acts of passive sabotage that, at first, seem harmless, but add up to something far more dangerous. Sign 17. They engage in small acts of passive sabotage. Some people won't openly work against you. They won't insult you. They won't start drama. They won't even make obvious moves to hurt you. Instead, they'll do something far more dangerous. They will subtly sabotage you little by little, through seemingly small actions that add up over time. At first, you might not even notice it. But looking back, you realize that every time you relied on them, something mysteriously went wrong. What does passive sabotage look like? They forget to relay important information. They conveniently delay helping you until it's too late. They introduce distractions into your life, encouraging bad habits or procrastination. They undermine your plans with doubt, bad advice, or harmless discouragement. And the worst part? They always have an excuse ready. Oh, I totally forgot. I didn't mean to mess things up for you. I thought you already knew. I didn't realize I needed to remind you. I was just trying to help. I had no idea that would make things worse. It's never direct, it's never obvious, but over time you realize whenever they're involved, things don't work out in your favor. Why do they do this? Because open confrontation would expose them. So instead of direct sabotage, they hide behind plausible deniability. According to covert aggression studies, people who feel powerless to confront someone directly often resort to indirect destruction, causing damage while pretending to be innocent. How can you tell? Small patterns emerge. It's not just one mistake. It's a series of accidents. They always have an excuse, but their behavior doesn't change. You feel a growing sense of unease, like something is off when they're involved. This is one of the most dangerous forms of hidden resentment because it's designed to make you doubt yourself while they stay in control. And if you thought this was toxic, just wait until you hear about sign Warrior 18, when they start testing your limits with subtle emotional manipulation. just to see how much control they really have over you. Sign 18. They test your limits with subtle emotional manipulation. Some people won't lash out at you all at once. They won't show their full resentment in one big moment. Instead, they'll test you slowly, carefully, to see how much control they can gain over you. At first, it's something small, a comment that feels a little too critical, a favor that seems slightly unreasonable, a moment where they cross a boundary, but just enough to make you uncomfortable without making you walk away. And if you let it slide, they push a little further. They criticize you more openly but disguise it as helpful advice. They ask for bigger favors but act offended if you say no. They start ignoring your boundaries but guilt trip you if you try to set them back in place. This is called gradual desensitization manipulation, a tactic where someone slowly conditions you to tolerate worse and worse behavior over time. Why do they do this? It's because they want to know how much control they really have over you. If you let their first passive-aggressive comment slide, they'll get bolder. If you allow them to overstep your boundaries once, they'll push harder next time. If you stay quiet when they subtly undermine you, they'll test if they can do it in bigger ways. According to behavioral manipulation studies, this is how toxic power dynamics form. Not through one big betrayal, but through tiny, calculated steps. How can you tell? They start with small, uncomfortable behaviors, then escalate. They test your reaction, watching closely to see if you resist. You start feeling drained, uncertain, or uncomfortable, but you can't pinpoint why. And here's the real danger. The longer this goes on, the harder it becomes to break free. Because every time they push the line and get away with it, they train you to accept more mistreatment. And if you thought this was manipulative, just wait until you hear about sign you're 19, when they stop hiding their resentment and start subtly taking pleasure in your pain. Sign 19. They subtly enjoy your pain. At first, they hide it. They pretend to be neutral. They act supportive. But as time passes, you start to notice something. Whenever you struggle, they seem a little too calm. Whenever you face setbacks, they offer support, but their words feel hollow. Whenever you share bad news, they linger on the details a little too long, as if they're savoring it. This is called covert schadenfreude, when someone secretly takes pleasure in another person's pain, but they disguise it under the mask of sympathy. What does it look like? Fake concern. Wow, I'm so sorry that happened, but honestly, I was kind of expecting it. Excessive curiosity. Tell me everything. What exactly went wrong? A subtle smile or smirk when they think you're not looking. At first, you tell yourself you're imagining it, but then it happens again and again. And the more you pay attention, the clearer it becomes. They don't just tolerate your pain, they quietly enjoy it. Why do they do this? Because your pain makes them feel powerful. If they feel inferior to you, your struggles make them feel equal again. If they feel overshadowed, your setbacks restore their self-esteem. If they resent your success, your pain gives them a sense of personal victory. According to psychological studies on envy and resentment, people who lack emotional maturity often see life as a competition, where another person's loss feels like their win. And this is where things get truly toxic. Because once someone starts secretly enjoying your failures, they might not just wait for bad things to happen to you. They might start pushing things in that direction. Which brings us to the final and most dangerous sign. Sign 20. They secretly set you up for failure, without you even realizing it. The most dangerous sign of all is when they stop being passive about their resentment and start actively working against you, not with open attacks, not with obvious sabotage, but with subtle, calculated moves that slowly push you toward failure, while making sure their hands look clean. And the worst part? By the time you realize it, it's already too late. How do they do it? They give you misleading advice. If I were you, I'd wait before making that move. I heard that strategy doesn't really work. Maybe try something else. They introduce the wrong people into your circle. They connect you with the wrong opportunities, ones that waste your time. They introduce you to people who hold you back instead of lifting you up. They plant doubt in your mind right before you need confidence. Before an important decision, they remind you of your past failures. Before a big opportunity, they drop subtle comments like, "Are you really sure about this?" At first, it seems like coincidence, but over time, you start noticing a pattern. Whenever they get involved, things don't work out for you. And here's the scary part. This kind of hidden sabotage is often so well disguised, you don't even realize it's happening until serious damage is already done. Why do they do this? Because deep down, they don't just resent you, they want to see you fall. But they also don't want to be exposed as the reason for it. So they manipulate the situation just enough to weaken you, while keeping their reputation intact. According to psychological research on covert aggression, this kind of behavior is common in people who feel threatened by your growth, struggle with deep-seated jealousy, can't stand watching others succeed while they remain stuck. And here's the final truth. If someone secretly resents you this much, they will never stop. Because it's not just about you, it's about their own inner demons. What should you do now? Now that you know these 20 hidden signs, ask yourself, have you noticed any of these behaviors in people around you? Have you ever felt drained, manipulated, or subtly undermined by someone close? Have you ignored these warning signs in the past, thinking it was all in your head? Because the most dangerous mistake you can make is to ignore your intuition when something feels off. So take a step back, reevaluate your relationships, and most importantly, start trusting what your gut has been telling you all along. If this video helped you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever dealt with someone like this? Which sign stood out to you the most? And if you want more deep psychological insights like this, subscribe now, because the next video will reveal even more hidden truths about human behavior. Stay mindful, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next one.